Welcome to the ToKnight Show with Superintendent Shannon Cheek, your go-to podcast for staying in the know about all the exciting happenings in your local school community. We know that we are stronger together, so today's conversation is designed to give you a greater opportunity to be actively engaged in the success of our students. And now, Mr. Cheek.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to the ToKnight Show. I'm Mr. Shannon Cheek, Superintendent of Arthur CUSD 305. We have two other administrators with us today. We started our first episode with the high school administrative staff, and today we're joined by Mrs. Kristen Nall, our special ed coordinator, and Mrs. Amanda Romine. You wear lots of hats actually, so tech coordinator for our K-8, as well as director of student services, which falls under the realm of whatever you need done, right?
That's
so
true.
I appreciate your time today. I know you're busy, so I appreciate you taking some time to visit with us and just let us get to know you a little bit better. And that's what really today's episode is just to have some conversation, let our public know who you are, and maybe talk a little bit about some things they may not know about you. So last week in our first episode, I did talk about myself a little bit, so I don't want to necessarily repeat all that information, but I think one thing I failed to share last week was, and I should be ashamed of myself, was my family. Married to my wife Kim, she works at the U of I, and I have two daughters, Morgan and Reagan. Morgan has finished up her doctorate and is working in occupational therapy at the Peyton Manning's Children's Hospital in Indy. And then my youngest, Reagan, actually graduated from Arthur and is now in her last year at Eastern. She's studying speech and language pathology, so she will be looking for opportunities to attend grad school very soon. So again, shame on me for failing to mention that in our first episode, but yeah, that's me. So I'm just going to shift gears a little bit and let you guys talk a little bit about, your history and education, your career path, maybe a little bit of something about your family that we don't know. Just kind of open the door for you guys to introduce yourselves.
All right. Well, welcome to the podcast. My name is Kristen Nall, and I am a hometown girl. I was born and raised here in Arthur, graduated from this high school, sat in this very library in study hall many years, and then my career path took me to Illinois State my freshman year. I actually majored in social work when I first entered college and decided when I got there that I wanted to be more in the classroom. So I became the elementary early childhood major that ended my college career. So I finished out with that degree, and then I started teaching at a Montessori school in Mahomet. It was called First School, and I taught 3- and 4-year-olds. And it was probably one of the experiences that altered my teaching life. It was just the Montessori approach is very unique and very interesting and hands-on, and I fell in love with it. So at that time I decided preschool and early childhood was my passion. And then my husband is from Southern Illinois, and we moved back down to Salem, and I taught in a special ed preschool to start out my first years in a public school. And I took a lot of those methods that I learned at the Montessori school to the preschool in Sandoval. So spent 6 years there, and during that time I got my administrative degree with my best friend talked me into going back to school. I did not want to do it. And she said, let's do it. It'll be fun. And so we did it. And then I got the opportunity to move back up to Arthur. And so we moved our family back up here. And I started out in preschool and went to kindergarten. And then I got my first leadership role as the principal at Atwood Hammond Grade School. I very much enjoyed my time there, but I very much missed working with kids in the classrooms and being able to be out and about. And special education is my passion, so I really missed that part of it. And so a couple years ago, I got the opportunity to fulfill my dream. And so now here I am as a special ed coordinator.
Excellent.
Hi, I'm Amanda Romine. Welcome to the podcast. I'm originally from Rushville, Illinois. So it's about 2.5 hours away from here. It's about an hour west of Springfield, Illinois. So I went to Illinois College in Jacksonville and received my bachelor's there, got a bachelor's in business administration and physical education. And then I went to Eastern Kentucky University and down in Richmond, Kentucky, very close to Lexington, and got my master's in sports administration. I wanted to do something in sports eventually. And from there, I moved back here, got married. My husband, Ted Romine, we live in Atwood. We've lived there since 1997. So we live in Atwood. We have 3 kids. We farm just north of Atwood. He's a crop insurance salesman also. Our 3 kids, 2 of them are adults now. They graduated here from this high school. So Arthur Lovington Atwood Hammond High School. They are adulting now and have full-time jobs and moved out of the house and being very successful. Very proud of them. Also have a daughter. She's in junior high. She's in 8th grade at Atwood Hammond Grade School. So she keeps us very busy. And I will say I started in a sales and marketing role for a company in Champaign, Illinois called Sports Publishing. So I set up book signings and interviews for coaches, college coaches, professional athletes. So I did that for about 10 years until there was some changes with the company. And so that's when I got into education. So I went from that to teaching business and computers at Atwood Hammond High School. And so that was in 2007, I believe. And so I went the provisional route. I didn't get an education degree when I was originally in college. But once I started teaching, I was interested in the leadership role of it, and I went back to Eastern and got my ed leadership degree, master's. And so we annexed here with Arthur. I taught for 10 years in the classroom. Then I became an administrator, was assistant principal and tech coordinator at Arthur Grade School. Filled in for less than a year as an interim principal at Lovington Grade School, and this is my 3rd year in my current role. So I'm a director of student services, so that's your job description and then everything that's needed.
Other duties as assigned.
Other duties as assigned, the last line on your job description, which I really like because you're never bored. There's always something new that you have to do, and I'm the type of person willing to learn to do something that I don't know how to do.
Yeah.
So that's where it brings me today.
Excellent. So, I mean, both of you have spoken about kind of your previous roles. You as the principal at Atwood Hammond Grade School, and then your role at Arthur Grade School. So you've both transitioned into a new role for both of you, but also really a new role for our district as well. Can you, like, as quickly and as maybe broad as you can, maybe just inform others about what is a special ed coordinator? What are you coordinating? What is your role within the district?
So special ed is a program in itself. There are a lot of components that go into it, and my role is to make sure we are following all of those components and those procedures. The goal is to make sure we're getting kids the support and accommodations that they need to be successful. And so I just go in and make sure that we have the supports for our teachers, that we have the supports for our kids, and that we're following all those procedures that we need to do.
Excellent. One thing I know that I want to commend you on that you've done a great job with is you've also brought some professional development to our district on our early out days, and you've kind of spearheaded that charge and done some work with our paraprofessionals as well as our special ed staff. So you're to be commended for that, because I think that's something new that we haven't really done before as well. So.
And that is something for the district to be just really proud of. I've gotten so many comments from the people that have come to do the professional development and said there's so many districts that don't do this for their paraprofessionals. And if you think about it, our paras are working with the kids that need the most help. So any training we can provide them is just going to help our teachers, help our students, help our district. So.
Yeah. And Mrs. Romine, you touched upon one of your roles didn't change as much, right? The tech
Correct.
piece.
Yeah.
But your other role, other duties is assigned. I mean, it's amazing. You and I probably work closest together of any other administrator in the district. So, Director of Student Services is a pretty broad stroke, right? So can you hit upon maybe a few programs or some things that you're proud of that you were a part of generating? I know grants and mentor. I mean, you've done so much in your new role.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about a couple things that you're most
Yeah.
proud of?
I would say one is the grant writing piece of it. I'm involved in writing several types of grants. We've got federal grants, we've got state grants that we work through, and we've received a lot of the grants that I do write, we do receive. So we do get a lot of money through those grants that are written. Another program that with your help we started last year was our mentor program. So we have community volunteers that fill out an application to be a mentor to our students. And so they come in once every 2 weeks, and we'll meet with the student for about 30 to 45 minutes and just develop that relationship and be a role model for our students.
Yeah,
So,
excellent. And you've done an amazing job. I think, I can't remember the last count we had in terms of numbers, but the most important piece for me is that we have representation in all of our buildings. So I appreciate the work that you've put into that, because there's no better investment that you can make than giving our students time. So much appreciated for that. So we're going to just kind of follow the same format that I did with Mrs. Sigmiller and Mr. Seal. We're just going to go down and talk about some questions. So first question is, I said this to them and they both chuckled. I said, you both spend, and you do as well, a significant amount of time at our schools in our district, and you spend a lot of time not just during the day, but during the school day, in the evening, etc., trying to make the district just a great place for our kids and staff. In that process, what do you feel like is some of the most rewarding parts of the time that you spend?
I will probably sound like a kindergarten teacher when I say this, but that is who I am. So I think the most rewarding part for me is seeing the kids succeed. I mean, I am here for the kids. I've always been here for the kids. Just being, whether it's in a preschool classroom or a senior in high school walking across getting their diploma, just knowing the battles that they have fought to get there and the struggles they've had, and just being able to be there to see them achieve their goals. That's the most rewarding part for me.
Excellent.
I would say when you see it on their face and they get that aha moment that they understand what you're teaching or what you're showing them, what you're trying to get them to learn. Not just the students, but also the staff. We do professional development for our staff, and hearing those comments from our staff that say, hey, I wish I would have known this, a while back, this would have helped. So, and getting those thank yous for when they do learn, and just watching the growth from our students from small age to graduating from our school.
Excellent. So I think we all have similar backgrounds in terms of our upbringing, right? We were all of us, I believe. I don't think Rushville's a big school either.
Nope.
So pretty rural. Both grew up in rural farming, small communities. I talked a little bit about this with Mrs. Sigmiller and Mr. Seal, that I'm really kind of proud of my roots and where I come from, and I think there's a myth out there that maybe bigger is better, right? And bigger provides better education, more urban settings. I want to know what your thoughts are, because I am proud. When the opportunity lended itself for me to kind of get back to my roots, I jumped at it because I just knew that's where my heart was. What's kind of your thoughts about that piece of the puzzle, like being educated in a larger district versus kind of a smaller, middle-of-the-road district like ours here at Arthur?
So my husband came from Salem Community High School, which was much bigger than what we're used to here. And I remember, like I said, attending this high school and sitting here thinking the first thing I'm going to do is get out of town. I just wanted to leave. I just wanted to go I think Chicago was in my mind, like all of these things. And you get out there, and I do think it is very important to get outside of your community. I think it's important to see what is out there. But as you will be able to see in my life, I ended up back here. So when we started our family, my husband and I both had the same beliefs, and we wanted a strong support community. We wanted to know who our teachers were. We wanted to know who the friends were of our kids. My husband was in a class of like 300 kids, and he didn't know everybody. And I was in a class of 32 and knew everybody and their siblings. And it was just, when we started to think about our family, we wanted that for them too. So I think the small town has so many things to offer, as far as when it takes a village to raise your kids, it takes a village to raise your kids, and where you are matters. And we've just had, my son is a type 1 diabetic, and I remember the year he was diagnosed, for the town trick or treat, he went to every store uptown and they all had a special treat for him. And that doesn't happen in big towns. So, you know, you can go to this big fancy school and you can do these things, but I have a son who grew up knowing that he was going to be taken care of, and knowing that just because he was different didn't mean he could not participate in things. So I think just the small school, it allowed for many opportunities. We are blessed in this district, and I don't think many people know that. Mrs. Siegmiller and Mr. Seal work very hard at this high school to provide opportunities. So the dual credit programs, my son graduated from here and started his college degree as a sophomore. So he was able to do that. My daughter is in high school now and taking advantage of many of these opportunities, and just the programs that we have are unlimited, and they're always looking for new ones. So.
Excellent.
I'll piggyback off of that. You know, my high school, we were a small high school. You know, we came back to Atwood because, you know, my husband farms, we farm. So, but I think it's the small, it's like a family environment in this school district, in Arthur School District. All the kids know their classmates, small size. And you get more help, I think, being a small size. The teachers are there. They know each of their students, build those relationships with those students. And I think that's very beneficial in having the small class sizes. You can build those stronger relationships with the students throughout the years.
Excellent. So if you could talk to the future graduating class at fill in the blank, Eastern, ISU, U of I, fill in the blank of educators, what would be a piece of advice you would give new educators coming out of those programs, taking on a job for the first year?
I would say it's very important that when you're going to interviews that you're finding a place that matches your goals. You have to not necessarily fit in, but you have to have kind of the same beliefs. And again, I think we're very fortunate here. I feel very strongly about our admin team. I feel like we work very well together, and that helps my job be easier that way. So I think my advice would be, give yourself grace, be really observant of where you're interviewing, and make sure it's a place you want to be and you see yourself growing in. Because if you can't grow where you're at, then it's going to be a long career.
So make sure it's a good fit,
Make
right?
sure it's a good fit.
Yeah, and every school district's different. So
Yeah.
that's a good piece of advice for sure.
I would say ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask the veterans or staff, the administration, you know, questions that you don't have the answers to. Don't be afraid to ask those questions. And even though you just got out of school, strive to be a lifelong learner. Always continue to want to learn, and continue that throughout your years.
That's good advice, because teaching is always evolving, right? I mean, it doesn't look the same now as it did even pre-pandemic. So excellent advice for sure. Just a few more questions here. So if you could wave like a magic wand and say, hey, you can change anything in education, whether it be our district or just education as a whole, what would you change?
I would say, honestly, I think working closely with you and with my grant writing experience is how districts are funded. I think I would want to see that changed on, with all the mandates that are put up on school districts. How can funding be better for our schools?
Excellent.
I think mine would be more in the classroom, just with standardized testing. I think it is something that we weigh a lot on, and we get away from looking at the growth of the student. And I think if I could wave a magic wand, it would be that standardized testing is not done and we just focus on individual growth as students.
Excellent. Excellent answers. How has your approach changed in the last 5, 8, 10 years? Or has it? Maybe it hasn't, and that's okay if it hasn't, but have you noticed a change in how you approach things now versus then?
So I definitely, from going from a teacher to a leadership role, that has changed different things. But if I can speak back from when I was teaching, I had one motto that I was going to do something new every year. I did not want to be a teacher who did the same units, the same things, all exactly the same every year. And so I had a rule that if I didn't use something for a year, it got thrown out. And so then I would have to make new things, and we would do different things. And those things have evolved from back when I first started doing whole group teaching to doing small group teaching. And so by the time I left kindergarten, there was no more whole group. We were doing all small group teaching, and that was a huge change. I think as a leader, you just get to know your staff, and you get to figure out the different cultures that are in the buildings. And COVID, man, that changed everything. So you thought you had it figured out, and then you had that. So I think technology has played a big role in doing that. And I think the thing that's made me, I'm very type A, and I want things the right way, and I want to do it right the first time. And I think the last 5 to 8 years, it's taught me to be flexible and understand that even if it doesn't go as planned, that happy accidents can happen and things can be better than you originally thought. So,
excellent.
I would say with my background, I think it's increased though, especially since COVID is more technology driven. Trying to stay up with the latest technology. And, sometimes that's hard financially, but, I think with that is probably one of my big ones. And also, I think here in the last couple of years, being part of a community partnership grant that was written, is that focusing on the mental health needs of our students and staff in general.
Yeah, excellent. So one more question before we really put you on the hot seat. Mm-hmm. Is there any projects or anything you're working on now that you want to just talk about a little bit or highlight?
Yeah, so I am really excited in the special ed department. Last year we started a functional curriculum called Unique Learning System, and it's something that we needed. It's something that we can offer, and our kids are really showing growth with it, that are using it, and it's great. The other one is kudos to my special ed teachers. We are looking at student-led IEPs. What better way to get your students involved in their education than having them advocate for themselves? So our teachers are really taking time to teach them about their IEP and what it means and what ways they can work with teachers to help them learn better. So,
excellent.
I say one project that I'm working on is creating STEM labs in our 3 elementary schools, our 3 grade schools. And so I'm going to a tech conference next week, so I'm excited to see what's out there. Looking at 3D printing, which I have taught before. Started a class here when I was a teacher here at the high school. So 3D printing and VRs, which is virtual reality, drones. So that's exciting to be able to work with the elementaries and actually kind of get back in the teaching aspect with our teachers and our kids, our students. and that'd be fun. And then one of the other ones, which I'll just promote here for all those that are listening, is our mentor program that I mentioned earlier. So continuing that and looking for more community volunteers that would love to be in our schools and working with one-on-one with a child.
And if they want to get involved, since we're plugging things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If they want to get involved, who do they contact? How can they contact?
So they can contact me. You can contact me at Whithammond Grade School, call that school, or email me, romineam@cusd305.org.
Excellent. Okay, before we wrap things up, we're going to go rapid fire. We did this with our high school administrators. It was kind of fun. So you're going to just go one at a time. You're not going to both answer the same question. I'm going to start with Mrs. Romine. You get the first one, then we'll move on back and forth. Okay? Are you ready?
Ready.
Ready.
Okay, first reaction, Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
A red popsicle or blue popsicle?
Red.
Chicken or steak?
Steak.
Bacon or sausage?
Bacon.
Nonfiction or fiction?
Nonfiction.
Reese's or Snickers?
Reese's.
This is a big one. You ready? Chevy or Ford?
Chevy.
Corn dog or funnel cake?
Funnel cake.
Thanksgiving or Christmas?
Christmas.
Okay, this is related to wings. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Bone in or boneless?
Boneless.
Boneless. Good. Okay, so you both did great. I really do appreciate your time. Appreciate the time that you carved out of your schedule today. I know both of you actually had some training, I think, in Charleston today that you were gracious enough to leave early and get here for me. So we appreciate the time, appreciate getting to know you a little bit better. Again, thank you. This will wrap things up for episode 2. Next episode, we'll be talking to our 3 grade school principals. So thank you. Hope you enjoyed and have a great evening.
Thank you for listening to The ToKnight Show, a broadcast of Arthur Lovington Outwood Hammond Community Unit School District number 305. Special thanks to today's guests. This podcast is produced for you by the Arthur Lovington Outwood Hammond Broadcasting class.